Hello to everybody who's joining us. My name is Judy Allen, and welcome to this edition of the Healing Arts. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Don Iannone, and he will be telling us more about his work relative to performance and relative to the healing arts. My partner on this project, Sue Johnson, will be telling us more about Don and his work. And at this point in time, I pass the baton over to Sue.
Well, thank you, Miss Judy, and so appreciate it. And more than that, appreciate seeing Don Iannone. It's been a long time, and I do know you and James spoke recently. Small world time that we both, made connections. But you, as you're a very creative person. Your background, if we were to Google you on the internet, shows you are so diverse with the things you have done in your life. And of course, now you have quite an emphasis on your spiritual work. And we would like to find out a little bit more how that works with you, because we've talked a lot about the physical aspects, the emotional aspects, and we haven't paid as much attention to the spiritual activities that do help people suffering from mental health issues and challenges, and how the development of their spiritual side will certainly help in that process of dealing with a lot, depression, anxiety, loss of everything, finances, family, jobs, you name it. So, Don, to start with, tell us a little bit about some of your background with your spiritual work, your poetry, your spiritual poetry, your photography. You've been out in Sedona in the past quite a bit, Arizona, and that is one of the seats of metaphysical development and activity, out in Arizona. So share with us, if you will.
I would be delighted. So where did all this begin? I was raised in a very religious home, and my parents were, they belonged to a fundamentalist Protestant church. It was a Nazarene church. And so my upbringing really began there. I fought it, like it was just too much for me, as a young boy. I had all this energy, and so there were all these places that you weren't allowed to invest it. But as I look back on my early upbringing, it was just right for me in the sense that I was a child who needed discipline, and it provided me with that. And it didn't, so ultimately it's not where I have ended up. I mean, my journey is taking me to many corners of the world in terms of religion, with Buddhism, various denominations within the Christian faith, and many other places. But the whole idea for me has been to be able to see myself as a spiritual being, and
As
to understand.
we all are, yes.
Yeah, exactly. I use the expression with my cancer patients at the Cleveland Clinic that, we don't have a choice that we are spiritual beings, but we have many choices in terms of how to express that. And I think that is an important thing for all of us to bear in mind. And there's a great deal to learn from every faith, which, I've had the opportunity to do that. I don't know if you're aware of this, Sue, but I took it upon myself to get a doctorate of divinity and a master's degree in divinity, and became an interfaith minister.
Right.
Not that I use that in a practicing sense in any active way, but it's just a part of who I am, and it's part of the process that I had to go through. But where does my spirituality come out in, I guess, the most understood way? and this is true for Mary, my wife, as well, and you certainly know her well. It's our work now rounding 6 years at the Cleveland Clinic at Taussig Cancer Institute, where Mary and I work as a team and provide complementary medicine services to cancer patients and their care partners. And more specifically, we provide Reiki therapy, relaxations, stress reduction therapy, hands-on. And I provide mindfulness training and guided imagery, work with a lot of patients with journaling. So, we've really kind of happened upon some tools that allow us in a concrete way, I guess, to use our spirits to touch others. And I'll stop for now on that and see where you want to go. But that's been an incredibly rewarding, and I will say emotionally demanding 6 years. Especially just yesterday, Mary, got news that one of her patients for 2 years passed away, and it's just very, very difficult. It's not easy.
No, and cancer, of course, is a very physical place to be when people are going through that. And I'm sure you've encountered such things as depression, as loss of, and sense of self, health. Now you do Reiki training that is hands-on. Are you and Mary Reiki masters?
Yes, we're Reiki masters, and went back and did a considerable amount of work beyond, the Reiki 1, 2, 3 medical training in medical Reiki, which is how to use Reiki in a medical context, but also training on how to teach others in a very formal way, to teach them how to do this, because so much of what we do, we think we have the answer, but it requires ongoing training. It's all about continuous improvement and understanding things so that you can really work with people in a deeper way. And that's what we've done. And so how does Reiki work? It basically uses the power of touch. There's two explanations. There's a spiritual explanation coming out of traditional Chinese medicine and out of Japanese religious traditions, to use touch as a way to basically channel Reiki to those in need. And so it's seen as being just that, very much as a spiritual healing technique. Working in a science-based institution, we have to be careful. This isn't a spa that people show up. So there's no incense, and there's some soft music in the background, but
no chimes, no bells. No.
Yeah, we have to be careful. And so it's been accepted. We've really created a receptivity among the clinical staff, that is the physicians and the nurses and other caregivers, that this is beneficial. But we've had the opportunity to work with patients from all over the world, and it's been an amazing experience. And I think we learn something from each patient that we work with.
And as well, we should as we work with each individual. Now, also, in addition to the work you do at the Cleveland Clinic, over the years, you have written poetry, you have taken spiritual photography. Tell us a little bit about what you like your poetry and photography to do as a spiritual activity to help people feel better about themselves as they look at your photos and as they listen to your poetry.
Well, first of all, you're absolutely right. I was diagnosed with cancer, and thank goodness I'm cured. And I started writing this book that was called Cancer: A Spiritual Teacher.
Can you angle that a little bit, because your light is hitting it?
Okay.
Yeah.
How's that?
A little better. Yeah.
How's
That's
that?
better. Yeah.
Okay.
Cancer as spiritual
Teacher.
teacher. Okay.
Yeah. And so I started writing this before I was diagnosed, and then finished it shortly after that. But it's been so the clinic has given away hundreds of copies of this book to patients and their families, and so it's been helpful, I think. I do use poetry in an active way with some patients that find it interesting and useful. But I'll read just one poem from the book, which is entitled "Life and Death: Two Sides of the Same Quantum Coin." Life and death, two sides of the same quantum coin. Heads you win, tails you lose. Flip the coin. Tails you win, heads you lose. Call it again. Life, what our consciousness manifests when we flip the coin. Death, what our consciousness manifests when we flip the coin. Life and death, two sides of the same quantum coin.
Wow, that that's deep, but simple, you know.
It is deep. It is
And
deep.
yeah, in your case, are you called completely healed from your
Cured. Yes, indeed.
excellent?
Yeah,
But
I'm
you
lucky.
are, go
I'm
ahead.
lucky.
Yeah. Are you an example of someone who has used your own knowledge and skills to help you heal through your cancer journey?
Absolutely.
How
Absolutely.
so?
Well, I think it's a two-way street, especially for me. You know, I'm able to relate at a deeper level with patients because I am a cancer survivor.
Mm-hmm.
But I've learned a great deal about my own journey through working both with patients as well as their care partners, their family members, those who are closest to them. And I think one of the things that everybody struggles with, and it's not, bound to the whole idea of cancer, but it's how do you deal with uncertainty?
Oh,
How do you
yes.
deal with not having, and I'm going to put it this way, and you'll understand what I'm saying. How do you deal with not having the answers that you want to hear?
Whenever you're in limbo and not having answers, no matter how horrible the answers, it's better to know them than to keep operating with what the heck is going on. Because we as humans, in my opinion, we do better with having definity about what the status is than this guessing, being afraid to go to the doctor because we have no clue, what's going on with us. We know something isn't right, but we just don't know what it is. And until the doctor and the other technicians let us know, it's a harder journey than facing the actual health issue or depression issue or anxiety issue. Because if a doctor tells you, what you're feeling now is a matter of depression because you're not concentrating, you're lost, you don't have a focus, you have no motivation, uh
Yeah,
but
great.
then, yeah, so then they're able to say, well, that's depression, and then you can go, oh, okay, now I got it. Do you find that's true in your life's work?
Well, I do. And I think that the other thing that both Mary and I have learned from our work is that no two patients are the same. They may have the same diagnosis, they may
Mhm.
be presenting the same emotional and psychological symptoms, but no two are the same. So it requires us to really understand that person that you're working with at that particular point in time. Um, there's so much that we don't know, and I think that that's just a realization for all of us. And sometimes it comes with age. Sometimes people learn that earlier on in their life. But I think that the work that we do is appreciated in a supportive care mode. I mean, people go to the Cleveland Clinic Cancer Center because they really do an amazing job of working with patients and helping them, deal with their cancer and all the surrounding issues. Um, but we work actually in the palliative care department, And
Okay.
palliative care these days means something different than it did many years ago, which is where that was end of life care. It's no longer that way. This is really about engaging people and really nurturing them in a holistic way from wherever they are in the cancer journey. And for some, they may live 5 years, 10 years. So, there's still a lot of time on their clock. But I think the benefit of silence as a healer, that's what Reiki uses, is silence and touch. So that goes beyond all the words. And people can actually find the things that they're feeling in their gut. And, I encourage them not to even put any names on things at times. It's just get in touch with that feeling, get to know it. Don't label it and say, this is fear. Because then, it becomes something that relates to fear in the outside world. And so we begin to stigmatize ourselves as being afraid that our cancer has taken our life away from us. But I think getting in touch with the actual feeling is important. So meditation does the same thing. Mindfulness is really about in this case, walking the cancer healing journey in a mindful way.
Which you have just led into my next question about mindfulness, describing what it is and how you interpret it and use it.
Yeah. So my training initially was in a couple of different Buddhist schools of meditation. So that was my foundation for many years. And, in recent years, I've gotten trained in the whole mindfulness. John Kabat-Zinn and his group up at MIT and Mass General really kind of put this on the map in terms of mindfulness being used in the context of medicine. And so a lot of what we do is we really help people become more self-aware and more focused on the here and now, and to learn that as a skill that they can carry into their life. I tell them the same thing over and over, which is whatever you practice on the meditation cushion is exactly what you need to carry into the rest of the day and the rest of your life, because every day requires us to practice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy for everyone. I have to tell you, there's some patients that find it incredibly difficult to meditate, and there's a lot of reasons for that. So, I find that journaling it's not a great substitute, but it's a great tool for them to be able to write about and reflect about the cancer journey, and to develop greater self-awareness and other awareness. So if meditation isn't for everybody, you have to have some alternatives. And Reiki is the best seller. I'd say that probably Mary and I, 60%, maybe even 65% of the services that we provide, involve Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
We do meaningful encounters as well. And I'll turn it back to you because I know you're about to say something, but meaningful encounters is really active listening, and where appropriate, providing some perspective. That's where I can use my own experience as a cancer survivor to share that, in an appropriate way, because this is about them. This is not about me.
Mm-hmm.
So meaningful encounters are very important.
Okay, I was just going to add a tag to when you were saying about a lot of your clients, patients have issues with meditating. In the general public, meditation is a difficult concept for many folks to practice. It requires, now those of us in metaphysics have heard the term the monkey mind, where where we've just got so many things going on in life that it is very difficult for us to take moments where it's okay to sit still. And the expression is be still and know I am God. And I don't know whether you work with that or not, but I think that may begin to help some folks allow themselves a moment of mindfulness, a moment of self-awareness to development, and just to learn, guided imagery is a great technique, if you will, or practice,
Yeah.
because it helps lead people who have, in my opinion, who have difficulty dealing with this concept of meditation, trying to quiet the mind, and not force yourself to deal with too many things at one time. Is that something that you agree with?
Oh, 100%, 100%, because, guided imagery or guided meditation is far easier for anyone who's new to meditation. So, you said something, and I have thought a lot about this, both in my own meditation practice as well as working with others. The whole idea of being able to control our thinking that's an act of craziness. Okay,
It sure is.
we are thinking, feeling beings. So there's no way we can just turn our mind off. But what we can do is train ourselves to pay less attention to our thoughts, and what we can do is learn to be with ourselves in a more comfortable way. And I think those are far easier goals than trying to reduce how much you're thinking. Don't pay as much attention, or learn to be with yourself in a comfortable way. So that means for cancer patients, learning to be with their anxiety, their depression, their not knowing. And so that's a reasonable goal in working with patients.
Let me
We
ask
have
you.
less than 5 minutes for
Oh,
the remainder of our podcast. But Don, I'd like to ask, how do you and Mary divide up your responsibilities with this endeavor, and how has that affected your marriage?
Well, to the latter question, it's actually grown our marriage in new and beautiful ways. Okay. We both have caseloads. That is, we have patients that are referred to us, patients we develop on our own. And so Mary has a caseload, I have one. We have schedules when we go into work, and we're constantly, adding patients. Patients are, moving on from their treatments. Sometimes we only see patients once, but, we basically divide up the work. And she does about 100% Reiki. She does a lot of meaningful encounters. I do Reiki, but I'm doing mindfulness and guided imagery and journaling and other things. But it works out really well. So I think I started out by saying that Mary and I didn't know how to retire. And that's really the way she describes it.
that's for
And
sure.
I don't know what retirement is. I don't, Judy, Sue, who knows? But something, what all this has taught both of us is to embrace the alchemy of our own lives.
Oh, the magic is, oh yeah.
Embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you have dreams and wishes, whether it's poetry, I've taken up painting. So now I do lots of acrylic on canvas. So that's part of it.
Owl
And
with a hat on, sure.
cows are very popular.
Yeah. And that
And,
shows your fun creativity side.
It
Yeah.
does. It does. I'm gonna come back to you for some acting lessons pretty soon. I
Well,
also
then,
do rock carving. So
uh-huh.
rock carving is kind of a fun thing.
Okay.
And so it's all, follow your creativity, your curiosity through life. Don't be afraid to try anything. Some things we don't want to try, but
Mhm.
to be honest with you, it's about embracing the alchemy of our lives.
On that note, that is beautiful. Tell Mary I'm not happy that I didn't see her today. But Don, quickly as we begin
Yeah.
to close, one, do you and Mary see private patients, clients in your own practice, or is it all Cleveland Clinic related? And
Yes.
in any event, what is your um, contact information, your email, your web address, so that if people want to at least call you as a resource to find out more about the Cleveland Clinic program, that you can share with them and be a resource.
Yes. So I'm going to provide my personal email, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's all lowercase letters. It's DIANNONE@gmail.com.
Okay, and we'll have that up on the screen as well. So we want to thank you, darling. I
Oh,
wish
thank
we could
you.
keep
Thank you.
talking. You know, you and I and Judy could keep talking metaphysical related topics for about 6 days with nonstop.
Nonstop.
Yeah, so I'm so thrilled to see you.
You
You and
too.
James are scheduled to see each other soon. For those watching, James is
Well,
one
and
of our
you
team.
too. And stay tuned. Thank you for the quote for the personal memoir. The personal memoir will hopefully be published in a couple of months. So look for your signed copy.
Oh, okay. And maybe we can have you back and talk about that experience of
Yes.
creating your
Yeah,
memoir.
that would be wonderful. But you
We're
know,
going to have to end, but
yep.
I would just like to take this moment to thank you, Don, for all of your observations. I especially appreciate your advice to embrace the alchemy. I personally substitute the word craziness for alchemy, but embrace the
Judy, I like
craziness of
that.
lives. We'd love to have you back once your personal memoir has been published. And at this point in time, we have less than a minute. So I'd like to thank all of our viewers for joining us today once again on the healing arts. And please come back to this channel frequently for more updates on the healing arts. Thanks to Don Iannone once again. And Sue and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you
Real
to
soon.
everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Love you, Don.